What is going on, investors? Hopefully you guys had a great day out there. Big sell-off in the market, especially over the last couple weeks. So you might be wondering, are quality stocks like Costco Corporation a buy the dip opportunity? And today, Costco reported their earnings, so we'll certainly get into the numbers. And then what we want to analyze is, look, we've had a big dip in Costco shares. Most stocks have dipped quite a bit. Costco, obviously, one of those stocks that a lot of people have on their list. We'll talk about it. Has Costco pulled back far enough to buy the dip right now? Now, year to date, the stock's actually down about 14%. We pay a small yield on this one at 0.86%. When you have treasury yields climbing well north of 1.5 now companies like Costco are not nearly as attractive with this small dividend. They only pay about $2.80 per year. And certainly when you have capital depreciation over the last few weeks like this, it makes those treasury notes, which pay 1.5 or maybe even higher now, much more attractive. That is why when interest rates go up, stocks like Costco can go down. Now, let's take a look really quickly from a valuation perspective. So I've got price to earnings, trailing 12 months gap. Sure, you could throw up a Walmart in here or a Target or any other retailer out there and compare Costco to one of them, but they're all different. What I like to do in these cases is just compare Costco to itself. Look at what people have paid in terms of price to earnings in Costco in a historical basis. So I've got a 3-year chart here, and we see here that people are paying really high, like a 42 multiple on their earnings, and it has come back to about 33 times. Now, I wouldn't say that's cheap by any means. It's about where Costco was trading for nearly 2 years here in this zone. A deeper pullback, in my opinion, down into the low 30s and even the high 20s would signal an even better buying opportunity if you're strictly looking from a price to earnings. Now, the other thing you can do is look at price to sales. A sale is a sale over at Costco, and we've got 3 years, exact same thing as the price to earnings. We're pulling back into this zone right here where we're trading about 0.8 times sales, so a fraction of sales. But you can see here that Costco's traded even lower than that just a couple years ago. So if it pulls back into that range, could spell an even bit better buying opportunity. Now let's take a look at the numbers and then we'll jump into the stock chart. The stock is doing something really interesting, so we'll talk about that. Has it pulled back deep enough to step in here and buy the dip on this one? So we've got our revenues here. We've got our 12 weeks here, 20 over 21 here. We've got 24 weeks, so I guess that's about 6 months or so. We've got net sales here on the top line went from $39.2 billion up to about, we'll call that $44 billion. Now, we've got these membership fees here. Those are growing as well from $816 up to $881. Now, I'm sure most of you are familiar with Costco's business model. They charge you this membership fee, and then they sell you the goods at incredibly low prices. And here's evidence of this. Our merchandise cost us $39 billion, and we sold $43 billion. So very, very low margin business, because what you want to do is factor in our selling, general, administrative cost. That came in at $4.3 billion. So add $4.3 billion up to this 39, and you basically get what they sell you net sales. So they basically are selling you the goods, I wouldn't say for free, but basically for almost no profit. That gives us operating income here at $1.34 billion. Very steady business, but it's not one that's going to go to the moon unless you have just massive amount of memberships come online for Costco, which again is slightly unlikely. You see here for the last 6 months or last 12 months or so, we went from $1.2 billion in the previous quarter. Now we went all the way up to $1.34 billion. You see for the last 6 months, holding similar, we went from 2.3 up to 2.7. Now, a lot of this flows down to the bottom line. We've got some income taxes, some other stuff going on. That gets us down to net income down here at 951. You see last year during the quarter as well went from 931 up to 951. Just a steady, kind of slow churning up business. You see we went from 1.7 up to 2.1. You see for 6 months we earned $4.78. This is a company that pays $2.80 per share, so they have plenty of room if they wanted to increase this dividend, and potentially maybe they have to do that if you have interest rates on the rise, in order for Costco to seem more attractive than that type of investment, they might have to increase this dividend. I'm not saying that's necessarily something they will do, but it is something that they could do if they had to, because they certainly have the earnings to support it. Now, from the balance sheet perspective, everything looks pretty solid here. Cash and cash equivalents went down just a little bit. Looks like they have about the same amount of inventory. We see current assets burn through about $1.9 billion there. Total assets basically flat as well. Now, total liabilities up about $2 billion. It appears our long-term debt, which is right here, stated about 7.5. All things being equal, everything looks pretty strong in terms of the balance sheet and obviously earnings as well. Now, what's not looking strong is the stock performance. Take a look. Over the last couple weeks, this stock made a high up into the 390s, and now we're all the way down here at 314. I'm on a weekly view in this, and I zoomed it way out. This goes back like 5 years almost, and I wanted to show you this. This is a pattern that we showed you, I think, the last time we looked at Costco. Is this stock tends to do this. It makes these runs, and then it sells off, and then it makes a run, and it sells off. It makes a run, sells off, makes a run, sells off, makes a run, sells off, made a run, sells off. Okay, now if it does this once or twice, I wouldn't say it's a pattern. But Costco has consistently been doing this for like 5 years, and I'm pretty sure I could zoom this chart out even more, and it probably is doing that. Now, the other thing that this chart is just screaming at you, and if you notice this, pat yourself on the back, this green line is our 50-day moving average. Take a look. Every time this stock has come and touched or traded below this green line right here, what has happened? It has found support at those levels and gone higher. And take a look at where the stock is right now. It is at or below, in fact, fairly significantly below its moving average. I would expect, now, doesn't necessarily mean a pattern is a pattern until it breaks, but I would expect Costco to consolidate at this area. Sure, it could continue to head down. How much further down? It's anybody's guess, but I would actually expect this stock to consolidate somewhere in this area and resume some kind of uptrend at some point. When that is, I'm not exactly sure. Now, on the daily view, we're seeing the exact same thing. I've got a daily view going back a year or so ago, and take a look. We've got our 50-day moving average here, and every time this stock has gotten below that, it's consolidated sideways very quickly and resumed an uptrend. Now, it could take a while. This actually took several months before you saw price appreciation. You're not necessarily, this is not like a trading stock. I wouldn't get in this if you're trying to do a short-term trade or even like an intermediate-term trade. If you're a buy and hold investor, you already have shares of Costco, you want to add more, these are the times you can do it. Now, would I go full, let's just say you have a couple shares of Costco. You want to add a couple more. Okay, it's a $300 stock. If you don't have access to fractional shares and you have a medium to small size account, well, $300 can chew up your account very quickly, especially in an IRA as well. When you're only limited to about $6,000 per year, a $300 per share stock price is pretty high, considering unless you have fractional shares. So at these levels, I would nibble. Okay, these are levels where I would nibble, buy a fractional share if I can. If you're only open to buy, full shares, I would do it in relation to how many shares you want. If you want 10 shares, I think you could do one share at a time. If you want 5 shares, certainly one share at a time, and really be patient here, because will this stock likely consolidate here and move higher? Sure. How long that will take is anybody's guess. And I wouldn't necessarily want to step in on, look at these big, gigantic red candles. I'd like to see maybe some kind of breather before I really wanted to step in here. But this is a good buying opportunity. If you have Costco on your watch list, or if it's in your portfolio, you want to add more, these are the times. Take a look. Again, this stock chart goes back to 2015. This is 6 years of a pattern, and we're seeing the exact same thing play out here. And so to me, this looks like a buying opportunity at some point very soon for Costco. Hopefully you guys had enjoyed this video. Leave me a comment down below what you're going to do with this one.